Hello. I want to talk about Midnight Opus, Amazon's latest advert, the one for the holiday season this year, 2024. They seem to have nailed it, which is why it's worth looking deeper at what Amazon are communicating through it, including some of the stuff they probably don't realize they're saying about themselves. And, you know, what's the phrase? Saying the quiet part out loud.
What the world needs now is love. Sweet love.
Have you seen this one? I'm sure you have, or at least if you ever watch things, you will, because I imagine Amazon have probably got quite a large marketing budget and they want you to see it. So I'm sure you will at some point. I want to be clear as we start that I'm not coming at this at the level of whether or not this is a good advert. It gave me goosebumps when I first saw it. I was like, oh, guys, get back in. I don't want these. They wouldn't go back in. I'm also not making this video as a critique of the tuxedo that they are advertising in the advert. I've not worn it. I can't comment on it. What I am drawn towards, though, is the message that's communicated beneath the story that the advert tells, and how it, you know, maybe reflects, contributes to, and creates the values that we hold as a society, and the impact of that on us as individuals, in our relationships with other people, and our relationship with the world around us, so that we might be able to ask ourselves questions about the kind of world that we want to live in and the kind of future that we play a little part in creating every day together. So this is yet another in what is now a long line of emotional Christmas story adverts that have really become ubiquitous over the past 15 years or so. It was given 4.9 out of 5 by System One Group, which I believe are a marketing agency, marketing consultancy kind of thing. They awarded this advert of the week last week or the week before. And here is their synopsis of it. So they say, the ad shows us a theatre janitor who sings to himself while doing his rounds. A colleague hears him and realises he has a special talent. And his fellow theatre workers set up a unique performance with a microphone and a spotlight. But an Amazon delivery lets them give him the finishing touch, a tuxedo, so he can look the part of a crooner as well as sing like one. The outfit gives him the confidence to let his voice soar, and the ad ends on a triumphant note. Maybe the tuxedo is actually more important than I realised. It's the source of his confidence. As always, do we detect any ChatGPT influence on that copy? I don't know. Let's just do a quick walkthrough then to really familiarise ourselves with how the story unfolds. If you've seen it, hopefully this will explain it if you haven't. So we start, it opens with an external shot of a theatre on an empty road now. Everyone's kind of gone home. People in the theatre are shutting up shop for the evening. And we see a hunched figure sort of walking towards the theatre across the road. And then it cuts to the inside of the lobby and we see him there again, walking through the lobby as other members of staff are closing curtains of sale booths and that kind of stuff, preparing to finish their shift and go home. We then cut to a locker room and we see the man in there, and there's some photos on the inside of a locker door. Including a photo of someone, a guy dressed in a tuxedo singing in a sort of fancy venue. And there's a bunch of other photos on there. It's difficult to make out, especially watching it on a small screen. But it looks like there's maybe a pregnant woman, and then some like travel photos or holiday snaps as well. And then we see the man put on his boiler suit and it cuts to him singing while he cleans mirrors in the backstage area of the theatre. He's mopping the floor of the foyer, rubbing a banister, and then he prods a little piano key while he's wiping the stage down, all this sort of stuff. That piano, incidentally, really needs tuning, I think. It sounds quite honky-tonk. And throughout this section, we see people noticing, people watching, people listening, people observing, and he seems quite oblivious to this. Like people just like looking around doors, hearing him sing and taking notice. And he's just there, obliviously just doing his job, singing quietly to himself. And then two members of staff come into the back of the auditorium. One pulls her phone out and orders a tuxedo with a bow tie off Amazon, and then shows the other one what she's done. And then the lights go down as the janitor's walking around with a laundry trolley. And then we're into the next scene, which I imagine must be the next night. So the same time next night. And it starts with the employee who's ordered the tuxedo taking delivery of it from an Amazon driver around the back of the theatre. It must be quite late for that driver. The workers are, they're sort of there, like peering out of this door, like making sure by the look of it that no one else is seeing what they're doing. And so there's like this little secretive, like, okay, quick, bring it in. And this van drives off down this like Dickensian snow-covered cobblestone road, which all adds to the Christmassy magic. And then we cut back inside to the auditorium where there's loads of hubbub and activity happening. The staff are preparing something. The sound booth comes to life. A phone gets plugged in. Someone discreetly sort of puts a microphone on the stage behind the janitor, and then someone else takes the mop out of his hand, and he's like, what's going on? And then turns around and then sees two of the members of staff, including the one that ordered the tuxedo, standing there with an Amazon box, presenting him with this brand new tuxedo jacket. And then a spotlight fires up, illuminates him, and then we see a guy standing in the seating with a big sign that says "Sing" in capital letters. And then the janitor smiles, kind of, I don't know, an awkward, like, what the hell is going on here? Sort of smile. Does a big gulp, like, as it dawns on him that he's been set up somehow. And then the room goes dark. He tentatively sort of walks up to the microphone wearing this new jacket over his boiler suit. There's that mandatory feedback as he approaches the microphone, sort of takes hold of the microphone. It's like,
What the world?
There's always feedback, isn't there, with a microphone on TV? Even in a professional sound environment. Very odd. And then he starts singing, and this what the world needs now is Love, Sweet Love, which is the song he's been singing throughout the entire episode. Goes up a key to take the emotional magnitude of that moment to another level. And the room is full of all the other staff who are sat there watching him and listening and looking at each other like, oh, wow, this is amazing. And the person in the sound booth is singing along. And then we see the person who bought the tuxedo just smiling with a lot of pride at what she's made happen. And it finishes with the Amazon logo across the janitor's silhouette from behind on the stage. Lovely. I guess most people sort of watch these things and just get on with their life. And for some reason, I just can't stop thinking about them and then overthinking them. And I think what really made me sit up with this one is the fact that it's Amazon. You know, Amazon depicting people in a workplace skiving, bunking off, taking a break. Notice they didn't invite the delivery driver to come in and enjoy the evening of music, did they? He had to go off at whatever time, 11 p.m, maybe, something like that, after everyone's cleared out of the theatre. But yeah, let's hold those words from the song that is featured in the advert in mind. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. Yeah. One of the main themes that really stuck out to me as I watched the advert for a second time was this kind of mournful sense of disconnection between the janitor and everybody else, all of his co-workers, and every other character in the advert. And how, even when they decide to do this act of kindness for him, it's actually done to him rather than with him. And so the way it unfolds is with people keeping a distance. They're listening to him without him knowing. They're watching. They're sort of, they've got their ears pressed up. They're observing. And then they're later planning behind his back. And so I was sort of thinking about it. It's like, the idea of watching and listening is quite close to the bone here, given that it's Amazon. A report published earlier this year in 2024 confirmed that Amazon uses what Oxfam describe as sophisticated surveillance to track what workers do down to the finest detail. The company uses these systems to drive relentless productivity from their warehouse workers under the guise that it's making workers safer. But workers report feeling pressure to work at an unreasonably fast pace as a result. The constant pressure to keep up with inhuman, unsustainable productivity standards places an oppressive cognitive tax on workers who fear punishment for time off task. This metric tracks down to the second the time a worker spends not actively sorting, packing, or performing work while on the clock. So, yeah, reading that, I was like, I can imagine a worker who has been part of contributing to this report, or for whom it just rings very true. You might be watching this Amazon advert that's celebrating people doing things that bear no relation to their job while at work. A little bit jarring, to say the least. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. Is that true? There's something about this division as well between the janitor and everyone else that creates a rather uncomfortable and patronizing dynamic in this advert. We might just be discovering Amazon's attitude towards different types of worker and different jobs that need doing within an organization. It's the lowly janitor walking in sort of hunched over, singing very quietly, and portrayed as like pining after days gone by. It's sort of suggested that, he used to be this important person up on the stage singing, and he's lost that for some reason. And we might read what happens next as almost an objectification of him by his co-workers, because none of them seem to speak to him. We don't see anybody interacting with this guy. We don't see him chatting with anyone about his story, about, who is the guy in the picture on the locker? Is that him? Oh yeah, tell me about that story. They treat him as some kind of exhibit, and we're encouraged to see him for the sake of the story as like basically being on the lowest rung of the ladder in this environment, in this workplace. He might love his job. He might be like, yeah, no, I go there every eve. It's great. I love singing while I work. It's nice and quiet. I can just, I just have a great time. And I think that the singing bit really is my next issue. It kind of reflects a strange relationship that we have with singing in general, something that's troubled me for a long time, which is kind of wrapped up in the judgment that we bring to singing, whether positive or negative. We turn it from what is essentially a fundamental part of human creative expression that we all, have, when we strip away the social judgment that surrounds it, we're all naturally inclined to sing, or at least most of us are naturally inclined to sing. It's a part of how we express ourselves. But yeah, we create this judgment language around singing, like people, you've got a good voice, but they've got a bad voice. So they've got a voice, they sing. And as the synopsis says, a colleague hears him and realizes he has a special talent. I mean, there's nothing in how he's singing early on in the advert to suggest he has a special talent. He just enjoys singing. And then this is where his fellow theatre workers set up a unique performance with a microphone and a spotlight. Why? Is that what he wants? That moment is mortifying to me. And certainly when I see his face, I see mild panic in that sort of facial expression. I'm projecting because it's like one of my worst nightmares to be in the position that he's in. I love performing music on stage. Something that, I find very comfortable and really enjoy. But that's not what this feels like. When that guy holds up the sign, that sing sign, it's like, perform, monkey. Especially as he's still wearing the boiler suit under the jacket. I don't know, the whole thing just looks very patronizing, very condescending. And it also reminded me of times where, I've met new people and I've told them that I'm a songwriter. They're like, oh, go on, sing us a song then. I'm like, no. What are you talking? Why did you say that? And And I've heard, comedians talk about this as well. Like you tell people you're a comedian. Oh, God, tell us a joke. No, why? I don't know you a joke. There's this sort of weird entitlement that comes with things like this. Like, oh, I've heard you singing. Here you go. Get on stage and sing. And in one of the reports, I think it was a 2023 report, an Amazon worker said, "It's an awful place to work. Can't breathe or voice an opinion. Feels like being a trapped animal with lack of support and respect. Not human. They treat you as if you were a robot." So those words support and respect are quite interesting. You know, what do they mean? What is support? What is respect? In this advert, we keep returning to the person who has noticed the special talent and ordered the tuxedo, and we keep seeing the look on her face. I guess it's meant to be like an empathy, a look of awe at his special talent, and a sense of like, yeah, I'm so glad we've kind of given voice to this guy. But it also feels like a bit of an arm's length, dare I say, self-righteousness that comes from this desire to do something kind. Like, I don't doubt it's from a good place. But really the kind thing, what would the truly kind thing be to do? In some ways, I think she comes across as the embodiment of the Amazon algorithm, which kind of gathers all of this vast data, overhears him singing, observes him, all of this sort of stuff. And then says, "Well, I heard you singing, and I see that you are but a lowly janitor. You will love this tuxedo jacket that I'm presenting to you here." It's like being on the website. Is this supportive and respectful? Is what they do supportive and respectful? When I saw the advert, I thought, geez, there's no respect here of his right to say no. What if he is like, "Oh, wow, thank you, but no, I don't want to do that." And he just sort of walks up, "Give me my mop back. I just want to do my job." I'm sure people who are there to see him perform would have opinions. Like, "Oh, we did this for, like, how ungrateful of him to not take our gift." Very selfish. And it would totally change the dynamic in that workplace in terms of his relationship with his co-workers from then on. So he's kind of backed into a corner. He has to do this. There's no consent, and there's no option of saying no that we see. And so support and respect to me would be, organizing this with him, making it clear, like, "Oh, we want to set this up. Are you comfortable with that?" And maybe he's involved in the organization, or at least you say, "Yeah, we want to make this nice for you, and we got you this tuxedo, or I'd like to get you this tuxedo, and hear you perform, because I know you're a great singer, and it would just be a really nice thing for us to hear you sing. Would that be okay?" You can make a night of it for the workers, maybe even all of you, a karaoke lock-in after work in the auditorium, little Christmas treat for everyone. And then people can sing songs. Maybe different people have different songs they want to sing, or they want to sing together, or they just want to sit and enjoy, the voices of other people. The only person who does sing along with him in the actual advert is the sound technician, and she's like safely ensconced behind soundproof glass up in the sound booth. So they don't really sing together, but yeah, that's an interesting image as well. But yeah, that feels much more respectful and supportive to me. Maybe he's singing the same song over and over, which in itself is a little bit strange, or a little bit sort of, okay, maybe something's going on here. Maybe he's doing that because it's a way of coping with some kind of, life situation or a trauma or something. What happened to the woman in the photo in his locker? If she was pregnant, what happened to the child? Is that his child? Was that maybe his partner or someone important to him? Maybe his sadness isn't to do with the fact that he doesn't have a tuxedo. and he doesn't have the opportunity to stand on stage and perform. Maybe there's something more to it. It's probably worth checking out what that is before you thrust him into this situation in front of loads of people with a spotlight glaring on him. I don't know. Just a thought. I know it's fiction. I know it's not real. I know he's not real. But the point is, there is a truth in this. And Amazon is kind of giving us a model to follow, and an example of an act of kindness as it's defining it. And I don't think we're supposed to relate to the janitor. Interesting thinking about, as the audience, our relationship with particular points in the advert. We're supposed to feel more affinity with the usher who orders the tuxedo, obviously, because that's what they want us to do. And so it encourages us to imagine making these spontaneous surprise purchases for other people that we've decided need something, or we could enhance their life in some way by buying this thing off Amazon. But if what the world needs now is love, what does that love look like? Does it need to be sort of secretive and a surprise, draped under surveillance and discreet planning? Or is it getting alongside other people, sharing stories together, singing together, finding that connection with your co-workers? Again, from the reports that came out about Amazon's working conditions, this disconnection is quite important to them. And the idea of co-workers sort of unionizing or getting an affinity together to realize, okay, these conditions that we're working under are not okay. It's quite important for them to keep people with soundproof glass between them. Yeah, someone said that as a worker, you are dehumanized. You are a number, not a person. If you have health and safety issues, the Amazon way is to pay you off and replace you with temporary workers with less terms and conditions. So these are all taken from a TUC article that was on the report last year. So things may well have changed since then, but this is sort of the latest stuff on these reports. And of course, it goes without saying that Black Friday to Christmas going to be the most stressful and pressurized period of the year. One undercover reporter said that while working in an Amazon fulfillment center in Essex over the Black Friday period, I think this was 2 years ago, scores of staff who dipped below targets were sacked. It's been reported that the high level of monitoring creates a culture of fear. Many workers do not take their legally entitled breaks because of the impact it has on productivity and the subsequent risk to hours and ultimately employment, particularly for the many temporary and agency workers it hires. Reports from the corporate offices suggest the culture there is just as demanding. Workers are encouraged to tear each other apart in meetings, work long and late hours, and never disconnect from their phone, I imagine, or from the company. Staff have been seen weeping at their desks, and even junior level employees must sign lengthy confidentiality agreements. So again, I can imagine that this advert feels maybe somewhat jarring to the people who have contributed to these reports and those who know how it is to work in those environments. But also, as we look beneath the surface of the advert, I think we can see some of these company values just hiding there in plain sight. To me, it's the culture that it is sort of projecting, because as trite as it might sound, it is also true that most genuinely meaningful acts of kindness don't involve buying something for someone or setting up some grand elaborate set piece that they're not part of, consenting to. Actually involved just taking the time to truly see someone, to look them in the eyes and see them as they are, not as we think they should be or want them to be or want to present them as. It's just like, yeah, hey, I see you. I'd love to know, your story and share mine with you. All right. That is all. Thanks for listening. Bye.